Hey fellow babies, welcome back to the Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. Hopeful that you are watching us real time on SIFTD and that you are a SIFTD patron on Patreon. If you are not able to commit to Patreon, we understand that. It would be great if you could link your Twitch account to your Prime account. Instructions are in our description. Pretty easy to do. And you got to re-up that, but it's a single click every month, and then our friends at Amazon will fund the program. All we need is a couple of bucks a month from everybody watching this, and we're golden. So please come through. It's been working great for us. Shane was able to actually eat meat this past month, so appreciate it if you guys can support us. Our first question from everybody on SIFTD. With Activision and Bungie parting ways, what will be the fate of Bungie and Destiny? Will Bungie continue making Destiny games after Destiny 3? Will Destiny 3 still release on the Blizzard app or PC? Will another company attempt to purchase Bungie? Do you think the split was planned all along once Activision paid the startup costs? Will Destiny become free to play? Look, Destiny games are probably going to disappear from the Battle.net platform, so let's be real there. Activision transferred ownership of the brand and the rights to all future revenue to Bungie. So there may be some accommodation for a week or two or 5, but it's going to disappear from Battle.net, so it's not going to be downloaded through Blizzard. I think that Bungie intends to make Destiny 3 for sure. They don't really necessarily have to make Destiny 4, but the original contract, the 2010 contract, was structured so that Bungie would make 4 Destiny games. And the reason that we are thinking now only 3 is that the games are supposed to come out in 2013, 15, 17, and 19. The 2013 version didn't come out. It came out in 2014, and it came out late in 2014, so it's September. So it was delayed by more than a year, and that threw off the schedule. The contract was a 10-year contract. So, instead of games coming in 13, 15, 17, and 19, the schedule then shifted to 14, 17, and 20. And the truth is, I think this deal broke down. I think that Bungie bought out of their contract because I don't think they expect Destiny 3 to come out in 2020. The truth is that Activision is a for-profit public company, meaning that it's owned by shareholders, and that its shareholders expect predictable revenues. And so its shareholders require its management to let them know when games are coming. And so I think this contract, which required, after the first slip, Destiny games to come in 14, 17, and 20, I think Activision insisted that Destiny 2 come in 2017. And my guess is that Bungie wasn't happy with the game when they launched it, and that they would have, preferred to take another year and polish the game and make it a little better. So Destiny 2 didn't do that well. I mean, it did great in the scheme of things, but worse than Destiny 1. I think gamers blamed Activision for being so greedy and forcing Bungie to put the game out before it was ready to get a 95. Life would be great if we could all be Valve, and work on Half-Life 3 for going on 20 years. The happy medium between Activision with Bungie and Valve, independent Valve doing whatever the hell they want to do, is Rockstar, where Take-Two allows Rockstar to work on games till they're finished. And that results in uneven, share prices. So Take-Two has gone from high 130s to as low as 100 in the last month, and I think it's back up to 110. It's because we don't know when the next Rockstar game is coming. With Activision, we always know when games are coming, and we expect games like Destiny to come out every 3 years. So I think what really probably happened is Bungie told Activision, here's your choice. You can either get a bad game in 2020, or we can extend the contract and you'll get a game when we're ready, which will be 2022 or 23, or let's just get out of the contract and let us deal with it. And I think that the parties agreed that the last option was the best option. So the answer to your question is, will there be a Destiny 4 or 5 or 6? Destiny 3 is going to come out when Bungie's done with it. My guess is it's going to be better than Destiny 2 because Bungie has no corporate overlord telling them what they have to do. It's probably going to come out in 2022. It's probably going to be great. And if it is, then there will be a Destiny 4. I think they'll keep the franchise going. If it's not great, then there won't be. And this is sort of like asking me, after a bad movie sequel, will there be a third one or a fourth one? Not if the second one's terrible and nobody wants to see the third one. I mean, where's Shrek 5? They stopped the franchise because Shrek Goes Forth kind of did it all and they were done. Will another company attempt to purchase Bungie? NetEase put $100 million in. I'm not exactly sure what that arrangement requires. I don't know if NetEase got ownership or they've got publishing rights and it was an advance against R&D. But if I had to bet, NetEase will be the next company that puts money into Bungie. Do I think the split was planned all along? No. The contract was 10 years. The split was planned to happen at the end of 2020 when the contract ended. The January 19 announcement was because Bungie bought out of the contract, and Bungie very clearly paid Activision something to get out of this deal. Will Destiny become free to play? I don't know. That's a Bungie call. There's a shift toward free to play for a lot of stuff, and you could make Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 free to play and not lose a lot of sales. So for sure, Bungie could do that. And if they did it, then that might drive, an extra 20, 30, 50 million people playing Destiny, which means there'll be that much more interest in Destiny 3 when it comes out. But I don't know. That's a good question for Pete Parsons. I'm sure Pete has an answer. He hasn't shared that with me. So that's my long answer on, I think I got everything. I'm pretty sure I did. Anyway, I think Bungie's going to be fine. They're competent and they're well capitalized, and I think Destiny 3 is coming out, and we'll see how well it does. Our next question from YouTube, from Havoc Maker. For the games that have been announced and confirmed for 2019, what do you confidently believe are the Game of the Year contenders? Just based on early, not reliable buzz, Anthem's looking good. And I don't know, I see trailers. I haven't played anything, and I'm not sure I would be competent to evaluate. But I'm hearing buzz that Anthem is like Destiny on steroids, that everything that Destiny didn't do right, Anthem is doing. I think, interestingly, a bad Destiny 2 with no support from Activision, because that transfer over to Bungie means Activision putting no money in marketing it and they don't care. That's a big opening for Anthem. So I think Anthem's timing is phenomenal, coming out mid-February. And if it is a typical BioWare title, if it's a mid-80s plus title, it could be a sneaky contender for Game of the Year. I'm a huge fan of Respawn, and I'm not trying to make this an EA fanboy thing, but I think Titanfall 3 might shock people. I think those last two games were great. I think that Respawn gets smarter every time they make anything, so I think that game has a shot. I'm not sure yet if Ubisoft has learned everything they can learn on multiplayer and figured out the Division 2, but my bias is that thing's going to be great. So I would say it's one of those three. I mean, of all the games announced, like I don't think any, I don't know, is Death Stranding even coming this year? Yeah, I mean, maybe. There are games that are announced that we don't have dates on yet, but Death Stranding looks like the weirdest game in history to me, but it's possible that, just because of who's making it, that could be phenomenal. I don't think, Pokemon, I don't think that there's any Nintendo titles that are getting it. Let's think what else. I mean, I don't think any of the conventional every year titles like Call of Duty or FIFA have a chance. The Outer Worlds could be a great game. I have to say it looked phenomenal, but I hate to tell you Game of the Year based on a couple of trailers. But I don't know what else is coming that's going to be like Skull and Bones. No, Last of Us Part 2 would win hands down if I knew it was coming this year. It might be. I mean, it might. Yeah. I mean, I think that, I don't know what the right window for that game is, But that game strikes me as a really good transition game between PS4 and PS5. And so, launch it in May of 2020, have the PS5 coming in November, and then have an upgraded version coming on the PS5. So I don't know what they're going to do. That's a system seller. So although I know very, very clearly it is a current generation game, it's a system seller for next generation. If Last of Us comes out this year, it wins. That's the one. Gears, I don't think Gears is game of the year. I love that game, but I think it's too much of a niche gamer that plays that game because it's the third-person shooter. It's a weird, I find it too hard, but it's my kind of game. Our next question from SIFTD from Kevin. What are your overall impressions of the Game Awards 2018? Do you agree with the winners? I have to say, I hate to come across like I'm kissing his butt, but Jeff Keighley's a stud and deserves every compliment he gets for that. I know that it takes 100 people to put something like that on, but Jeff is 80% of the blood, sweat, and tears to put that thing on. I remember Jeff when he was a 20-year-old punk, and now he's a 40-year-old punk. It blows me away what he has accomplished. He had a vision, and I don't think he's done, but every year I go, it's better, and it gets better and better and better. I think he had a misstep the year with the Schick robot, whatever thing, and doing ads during the show. I think that the pace of this one was amazing. I even think the orchestral numbers were great, and if you don't like them, great, you can go to the bathroom while that was going on, but it was really well done. The game awards themselves, the pacing was really good, the categories are really good. I agree with the winners. I have to say the surprise to me was the God of War one, and in retrospect, it deserved it. So I guess I agree that it was the best game. I was surprised it won. It's sort of like, because the way Metacritic works, Metacritic is like a raw math thing, but it's like, what's the difference between a 96 rated game and a 92 rated game? And the answer is 3 or 4 publications. It doesn't matter. And a game that gets all 9s and 10s versus a game that gets 1 8. So, getting the 5-point scale guys to all give you 5s is the difference between a 96 and a 92. I don't think it matters. And so, it doesn't surprise me that an editorial board, made up of a game review board that is made up of editors, is going to say, yeah, this got a lower score, but we liked it better. By the way, the difference between a 100-point wine and a 94-point wine is several $100s. And the difference between a 100-point game and a 90-point game is $0. So that's the good news. All right, our last question this week from SIFTD from NeOJD. Do you think the Epic Games Store is going to give Steam a run for its money? The Division 2 is the latest game announced as an exclusive to the service. If Steam is smart, they just cut their price to 12% of take. And so what I'll give you guys a little lecture. Democrat here, so I didn't vote for the Orange Menace. But I believe in capitalism. And what capitalism means is that people can get into businesses and thrive and succeed without government intervention. And the government lets them, do their business so long as they don't hurt people. So obviously the government should regulate, that we don't sell heroin to people. Obviously they can regulate stuff like that. But otherwise, just let the market figure out who the winners and losers are. And in a capitalist society, and fortunately the US and most of Europe and most of the gaming world are capitalists, in a capitalist society, competition is a good thing. And so what happens is when you have a monopoly like Valve, where if you want to buy a PC game, you have to go to the Steam store to find it, well, they collect 30%. And this big move by Ubisoft, pull the Division 2 off. Have you ever bought a Blizzard game on Steam? No. Have you bought an EA game in the last decade on Steam? No, because they use Battle.net and Origin to download because they don't want to pay the 30%. EA compete by starting their own services that only have their games on it. Ubi tried it with Uplay, it didn't work. Epic came up with, hey, we'll be a store, 12%. And last I checked, 12% is cheaper than 30%. So if you are a capitalist company, and all the public publishers are, you want to make 88% of whatever the consumer's willing to pay. You don't want to make 70. So what's going to happen is you're going to get more defections from Steam. I don't know that you need an exclusive there, but what Ubi did was they said it's exclusive because we have enough confidence as Ubisoft that you will try to find the division. Therefore, we're not going to pay Steam, and if you want to find our game, we get to keep 88%. So other guys are going to start to migrate that direction. And I think the way Steam can keep the migration at a minimum is to cut their royalty. I doubt they'll go to 12. They might go to 20, they might go to 15. I think they'll say, look, we have some value that we add beyond what Epic adds because we have 150 million Steam accounts. I think it's that many, something like that. But we have 150 million people who have downloaded Steam software, and they have registered accounts, and we know who they are, and we know what they bought last time, and we can, if they bought the Division 1, we can market Division 2 to them. That has value to a publisher. So I think they'll probably just start discounting. And the question is, do they discount across the board, or do they discount only for some publishers? My bias is they'll probably come up with what's called break points. So if you download, 100,000 copies, you pay 30%. If you download 200,000 copies, the first 100,000 are at 30, the next 100,000 are at 25. You go to 300,000, the royalty rate drops to 20, and so on. That, I think, is pretty appealing, and so that's what I think ends up happening. And then Shane reminds me that, Discord is now talking about 8%. Now, Discord doesn't have a download service, but how hard is it to offer a download? Discord has account holders. Discord has, I don't know how many tens of millions, but tens of millions of people who use the Discord app. So if Discord can make it as seamless as Steam and charge 8%, what's going to end up happening is if it's free money, so if you're Discord, you've already got the app installed, on 10 million PCs. How hard is it to turn on a download service? Costs you nothing. What's it cost to download the game? Literally a penny per gigabyte in content delivery. It's something that small. So even a 30 gigabyte PC game, it costs you 30 cents. And if you can get 8% of even 20 bucks, you're making $1 profit, $1.20 or $1.30. So, I think that you'll get competition. The question is, the big elephant that can just own this whole thing is Amazon. If Amazon decides they want to get in this business, they can charge 5%. And Amazon could do it by the game. We're going to charge 5%, and we'll give the person who purchases it with an Amazon Prime account a 5% rebate. They could do it at zero cost. So Amazon, I don't know that Amazon actually wants to be in the PC game sales business, but Amazon just announced a streaming service of its own. So the point is, this should be competitive. God bless Steam for creating this whole market, and they deserve every penny they've ever made. But if it gets competitive, Epic, because of Epic's prowess in PC, Epic, and because of its Fortnite registered users, Epic can pull this off. It's hard for any other service to claim a big critical mass. That's why I said Discord can do it because of its user base. But I think that you're going to see more competition. Now, not asked, but this begs the question, what about mobile? And the problem with mobile is it's a two-player market. There might be some Motorola phones still out there, but it's a two-player market. It's iOS and it's Android. And so it's the Google Play Store and it's the App Store, and they charge 30%, and that's too bad. And unless one or the other decides to discount, there's no incentive for either to discount. Sort of like Sony and Microsoft charge 30% on console. Unless one or the other chooses to discount, there's no incentive for either one. So I wouldn't be surprised if, as we get a greater percentage of full game downloads on consoles, if a capitalist company like Activision or EA were to go to Sony and Microsoft and say 20% on digital downloads instead of 30, and we'll give you a 1 month exclusive on our title, or 2 month exclusive, and the only place to buy it is on PlayStation or Xbox. Too late now, because you would not make a decision to purchase a console based on having a 1 month early trial, because you already have a console. But it's perfect for the next generation. So what would be great is if, as the PS5 and the Xbox 2, whatever they call it, are announced, if Sony says, and all Activision games will be available on PlayStation first for 2 months. If they did that, Sony could win that by saying we'll discount the download rate and the physical royalty, down from the current rates down to something 10% lower. And that'll be an interesting scramble. So I could see the console publishers insisting on that. Interestingly, by the time the next consoles come, that's when Amazon's going to have a full-fledged download service too. So it's entirely possible Amazon says to the publishers 5%, and they aren't going to bypass the console. They'll do both. But I do think this is the beginning of discounting across the board for download services. So yes, I think Epic Game Store is going to cause Steam to lower rates. Yes, I think they'll give it a run for its money, but ultimately I think you're just going to have a lot of choices on where to buy games. And if I had to predict, Amazon's the winner of all this. Hope that was instructive for our first episode of the new year. And appreciate you guys watching on SIFTD.net, and appreciate your patronage through Patreon. If you are not a Patreon patron, we'd appreciate it if you could connect and link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account. If you do that, then we'll get a little juice from Amazon, so that would be great. And if you can't do any of that because you're just too lame to figure it out, please follow me at Michael Pachter on Twitter, follow Shane at Dinfire on Twitter, and follow SIFTD at SIFTD Games on Twitter. And give us a shout out, say you guilted me into this. I literally, in the last 5 episodes, got one shout out. One person said, you guilted me into this. So let me know if you're only a Twitter follower because I shamed you into it. I'm just curious, actually, if there's any of you out there. I get enough grief from people on Twitter, so I figured, I'd love to get an equal amount of praise from people who say, hey, like the Pachter Factor. And I was at CES this week, and I actually had 2 randos walk up to me and say, love your show. So I was like, wow. So you guys are still out there. Please do, if you see me out in the real world, come up and say hi. Thanks for joining us on this week's Pachter Factor. We'll see you next week.